My dear friends, let's give some tzedakah together with all the blessings, and let us learn a little subject. You know, my Chabad house is in Montreal, in Chabanel, which is called the garment industry, the fashion industry. And I sometimes wonder if the description of all the garments that we have in this week's Parsha, would any of the designers in the fashion industry ever do that? Turns out, none of it. To the point that they're fascinated by the beautiful design of these garments, particularly what was called the ephod. So let me read to you what the pasuk says. Also as an ephod, you should make the ephod, and we'll soon see what that means. Zav, tcheles, v'agaman, made of gold, blue, purple, and crimson wool, twisted fine linen, the work of a master weaver, beyond of what you find today in the in the fashion industry. So Rashi comes around and says, what is an ephod? And let me read to you what Rashi says. I'll translate it in English. Says Rashi, I did not hear what kind of garment it was, what it was. I have no tradition concerning the ephod. And he says, and I didn't find the explanation of its pattern in the Baraisa, where the Baraita, the Talmudic, like the Mishnah, where they discuss the Meleches HaMishkan, there is no description of it there. So Rashi says, my heart tells me that the Kohen Gadol was girded with this ephod from behind, like a piece of cloth, a piece of beautiful garment hanging in the back, and its width being like the width of an average man's back. And then Rashi says like this, similar to a kind of apron called in French porzan, not sure what it means today. As we know, today's French is not the same as the French of the olden days. So he says that this is a kind of garment, a kind of an apron, back to front, that princesses wear when they ride horseback. What is Rashi telling us over here? A princess riding a horseback. So there is a tradition as far as that is concerned, that once Rashi was walking and he suddenly saw a princess, nobility, riding a horse with his floating apron, cape kind of a thing. And Rashi was very disturbed by the fact that he was exposed to an immodest image. And he was deeply disturbed by the fact that why did God present this to him? What was the purpose of it? For a long time he was disturbed about it. Then when he came to learn this pasuk in Chumash, he says, oh, this must be what the ephod looks like. And that's why Rashi says, I get this idea from where? From the princess wearing this kind of a garment. And Rashi is teaching us here an important message. Something that the Baal Shem Tov says, that a person has to always be attentive to whatever we see, whatever we hear, that there is a message in there. There is something that we have to learn from it in a positive manner for serving Hashem. So Rashi says, what I was exposed to is actually something which is immodest. And we realize that to Rashi, looking at something immodest was a very disturbing experience, which should be for all of us actually. But nevertheless, says Rashi, if God exposed me to it, that's an indication that I can learn something from it. Learn from something that would bring a positive, in this case, an explanation on the Chumash. And that's why Rashi brings this idea, this concept, that although it came from something which was negative, yet I can take something positive out of it and understand the high priest's garment. In other words, even from something which is so deeply negative, we can transform it and make it into the greatest experience, the garment of the high priest itself. What can there be more lofty, godly, in a physical sense, in a physical object, than the garment of the Kohen Gadol? That's the message for us. That indeed, the reason why we are down here in this negative world is to transform it and making it into the holy world, the godly world, all the way to the ultimate Bet HaMikdash. And then we're going to see the ephod on the Kohen Gadol. And may this be today.